Welcome
I have no idea what's going on, guys. This could be a major fiasco.
to Lighting for Profits, your number one source for all things landscape lighting. Powered by Emery Allen from Lights and Marketing.
And I'm just like, okay, is this where I get beat up in front of my friends? Like, what's going to happen?
We discuss everything you need to know to start and grow a successful landscape lighting business.
That's what I like.
Now, here is your host, Ryan Lee.
What is up? What is up? How are you doing? Welcome back to Lighting for Profits. It's the premiere of season 2. I can't believe we made it this far, but here we are. We are live on Facebook, live on YouTube, and of course, we're recording for the podcast listeners as well. If you're here live with me, let me know in the comments. Let me know if you're excited for season 2. We got a good show planned, and I'm super excited to have this show today. Like I said, it's season 2. We've been doing this for over a year now, and can't be more excited about today's episode. Our special guest is Mr. Chris Appelstadt, the one and only owner of Light Up Columbus. So representing his shirt here, right here, Light Up Columbus. Got a nice gift in the mail. Actually, not just one shirt. We got like shirts for the family. So stay tuned for family pics. And I am so excited and so grateful that he has joined me today. Before we have him on, I've got a couple things I want to address. Just want to remind you that we are here to educate and motivate to help you dominate. So if you are looking to start or grow a landscape lighting business, then this is the place to be. We're going to have a guest on every single week that's going to share their knowledge, share their experiences, and hopefully inspire you to be a better person, be a better business leader as well. So want to give a shout out to the new show. So make sure you go and subscribe. Go to lightingforprofits.com. It's a new channel. So I still have season 1 uploaded and all that stuff, but go to the new channel. Go to lightingforprofits.com, and that will take you to all the new links. So if you listen to it on Apple or Google or Spotify, Amazon, wherever you're listening, it's on all the stations. But go to the new link. That way we get credit for the views and stuff like that, the downloads, the listens. And don't forget to give me a 5-star review. I got to ask, if you're enjoying the show, go give me a 5-star review. I believe you can only do that on Apple. I'm not sure if the other ones you can even give yourself a rating. But if you're listening to the podcast on Apple, give me a 5-star review. Give me a nice review. Give me some nice comments. Let me know what you think of the show. And that's pretty much it. I just want to thank you guys for your support. I took a little sabbatical, as you may know. And what's up, Andrew? What's up, Dennis? What's up, James? Good to see you guys. Thanks for being here. I don't know why I can't scroll down more. But yeah, I took a little sabbatical. What's up, Rob? What's up, Daniel? True Seeker, what's up on YouTube? Took a little break, and we'll talk about that. So before we get started, before we have our guest come on, Chris Appelstadt, he's actually a repeat guest. Man, I think I'm having mouse issues or something. But before we get started, I want to talk about basically, I guess, some personal things. I want to talk about some personal things that have happened to me lately. And the one common denominator that they all have in common is they all have required, or I guess involved, taking risk. So I want to talk about risk for a minute and share some personal experiences with you that hopefully you can learn from. Hopefully I can learn from. Some of them have been totally fine, and I'm great, and others ones I'm still recovering from. So, and I'm still having mouse issues. So imagine that. But basically, the first experience when I want to talk about risk, and by the way, when I'm vulnerable like this, I want to talk about risks and stuff like that. It's not when you take risks, there's going to be failure. You're going to have mistakes. You're going to have failure. And I don't really like even the word failure. I use it, but it's really more a learning experience, because if you can just get back up on your feet and keep moving forward, you're going to turn that failure, quote unquote failure, into a learning experience. So the first kind of vulnerability that I want to share with you was a risk I took about a year ago. And it was actually when I decided to start a podcast. I had no experience podcasting, no experience interviewing, no experience with production or anything like that. not fully confident in myself as a podcaster, YouTuber, Facebook, or whatever you want to call it. I'd been doing Facebook lives and stuff, but I decided to take a risk, right? And I decided to partner with Turfs Up. And honestly, things were going well on camera. In fact, we were quickly approaching 20,000 downloads. So thanks to you guys, we had a lot of support, a lot of good things happening. Pretty awesome. But really, what wasn't apparent and what wasn't obvious to a lot of people was there was some sour relationships behind the scenes. And I don't really want to get into too much of the details, but the relationship started off right, everything was going good. Then over time, it just obviously didn't work out. And so now it's fine. We decided to part ways, and I'm on my own, which is awesome. I still have the support of Emery Allen. And so they've been awesome to work with. They've always stood behind me, not just with the podcast, but with some of the training events and stuff that I've done. So it's been a lot of fun. So you could look at the breakup, if you will, with Turfs Up as a failure, or I could look at it as like, it was an opportunity. It was a learning opportunity and a learning experience. There was some things that I could have done differently. I should have done differently. But again, I'd never been podcasting before. I just didn't know, right? And so what I learned from it is like I could have, just held myself back and waited and maybe never started a podcast. Or I could be grateful because when they reached out to me, it really pushed me to start it. It was on my plan. I always wanted to do this as part of my strategy and as part of my way to get content out there. But it really gave me the opportunity to do that. So I am grateful for the opportunity. And that's sometimes what we need. Sometimes we need someone to push us, someone to give us, that opportunity. And my mouse is working. So I am back, Facebook user. So in the end, it didn't work out with Turfs Up, but no worries. I don't wish any ill will upon them. I hope they continue to grow, but ultimately, this is the best decision for myself, for my goals and stuff like that. So that's risk number one, right? And again, I wouldn't by any means call it a failure, but it did come to an end. And so I'm taking my own advice and I'm picking myself up, and I'm going to keep moving forward. That's the key, right? So again, I could have been like, you know what? I'm just going to wait to do a podcast till I have all the details, until I figure everything out on my own, or I can just do it, right? So risk number one, decided to start a podcast, and here we are. Risk number two, story number two. Gosh, I'm okay sharing this stuff because obviously I'm doing it, but it's still kind of hard. It's still hard to admit that we're not as good as we want to be, right? And so I took a risk to hire an executive assistant, and I'm paying well, guys. Like if I am paid, this is like a real career position. This isn't like, oh, you want part-time pay or whatever. Like this is real career money, real career benefits, everything, right? And so but here's the thing. I'm now 0 for 2 when it comes to hiring an executive assistant. So the only reason I want to share this is because I want you to understand that the journey is never perfect. The process is never perfect. You can apply the principles and do your best, but sometimes it just doesn't work out, right? And I want you to know that I talk about hiring, I talk about different things, recruiting, and it's not always going to be a perfect process. In fact, I was actually on a call earlier with I now have 2 business coaches that work for me inside Landscape Lighting Secrets. They help run some calls. They run bi-monthly calls, so twice a month they're assigned to different groups and stuff like that. And so I was on a call with them. We have a check-in and stuff like that. And one of them reminded me that, hey, listen, you're not doing too bad, because in baseball, if you have a batting average of 300, you're going to the Hall of Fame. So I just have to get 1 out of 3 and I am golden, right? So yes, there is still a chance. You're saying there's a chance. So I know I'm a pretty optimistic person. I know there's somebody out there right now that's going to be a good fit for me, that's going to help propel my business to the next level that I need help with. And I learned a lot of stuff along the way, questions I probably should have asked. There were some red flags that I probably overlooked. And they say to, fire fast and hire slow. I probably hired too fast. So let's just face it. So again, failure, learning experience, opportunity, call it what you want. but it was a risk. I was paying money and time. I mean, I look back, it's like, man, I'm like 4 months in now to wasted time of training, right? That's progress that I would rather have back, but it is what it is. So, but again, you have to take, you have to be willing to take these risks and be willing to fail if you want to succeed. And then the last experience I'll share about failure, taking risks, is it was just a couple weeks ago. Um, I was so excited for this day. Honestly, it was like I've been waiting for this day for a long, long time, probably ever since my last child was born. So 7 years. I want to go skiing with my whole family. I want to take my kids skiing, and I was so excited. And my two older girls, they've been skiing for several years now. They're great. They're fun. But my two younger ones, we tried to teach them to ski a couple years ago when we were living in Texas. We flew into town, and it was a blizzard. It was packed. It was a terrible time to try to teach them, but we forced it because we wanted them to learn to ski. It was a terrible experience. They hated it. They cried for hours and probably days and weeks. It sucked. And they literally had, like, they've been like traumatized by this experience. They never wanted to go skiing again. I was like, oh man, I failed. What was I thinking? So it's been literally like 2 years now, and we waited until it got warm. I thought, you know what, we'll go spring skiing. It's warm. You can't have a bad time spring skiing. So we go, put my two younger ones in lessons. We're skiing, my wife, myself, my two older ones, and we're waiting for them. They're in the lesson, so we're going off doing our thing. Well, this was literally the best day ever until something happened. So if anyone's ever been spring skiing, the snow conditions are not necessarily ideal. Okay. It's fun. It's, you can, like, take your shirt off if you want, like, it's pretty warm, but the snow is not awesome. And so it was really slushy in the afternoon. It warmed up. I don't even know how warm it was, but I took my jacket off because it was so hot. I considered taking my pants off and skiing in my shorts. Like, there was college kids just skiing in swimsuits and stuff like that. So I'd considered it, but I was like, I'm not going to do that. I'll just go in my t-shirt. So we're going, and I go down this, pretty nice hill, and there's a little lip, right? And so I jump this lip, and I've been doing this my whole life, really. And I've been doing it all day. I jump this lip, and when I land about 10 feet down below this really steep face. When I land, the slush just stuck to my skis and just caught me. And if you've ever skied in slush, you'll know what I'm talking about. Even when you're just skiing on a flat section, you can almost fall out of your skis because it just stops you. And so it stops me on this hill. I go flying forward, land on my head. I have a helmet on and stuff, so I'm fine. But literally knocked my skis off. I had actually cracked my rib. I couldn't breathe. The wind was knocked out of me. My wife is witnessing this. My two daughters. I'm like, oh gosh, I don't know what hurts worse, my ribs or my pride. And they come down. Are you okay? I'm like, oh, I'm fine. Like, I couldn't even talk because the wind was knocked out of me. And I thought, oh my gosh, I'm so embarrassed. I just crashed in front of my kids and everything. But you know what? It was a good experience to show them that dad is not invincible, that I'm not as good a skier as I think I probably am. And if you take a risk, such as jumping off a lip or whatever, and you're going to fly in the air, there's a chance that you could crash and get hurt. And so in business, same thing. You take a risk, there's a chance you could crash and get hurt. It doesn't always work out. Now, I've landed that jump probably literally hundreds of times, never had an issue, but I never did it in the spring, apparently, with all that slush. So don't let your failures hold you back. Get back up, do it again. And it doesn't matter if we're talking about hiring, if you're talking about raising your prices, whatever you're doing. If something doesn't work out the first time, or if it works for a little bit and it doesn't, like, don't give up. Like, it's not a perfect process. Okay. Growth it causes pain, right? And if you want to succeed in business, you're going to have to take risks. It's the one common denominator that happened in all these stories, but it's also the same common denominator in any successful business. All these people, these CEOs, these business leaders, they were all willing to take giant risks. And it's not blind risk, like, oh, let me just roll the dice. Usually they're calculated risks, but we all have to be willing to fail and willing to crash and burn sometimes and take that risk. So at the expense of my ribs, I think it was worth it. It was a lot of fun, but then I had to figure out how to take the kids on spring break and everything else. I'm like, okay, this is bad timing. So that's pretty much it, guys. I want to encourage you guys to take risks in your own life, in your own business, and be prepared for some pain, because that can definitely happen. So that's pretty much it. What we're going to do now is let's see if I can work the buttons. It's time to welcome our guest. Are you guys ready? If you're watching live, let me know in the comments if you're ready for our guest. I'm ready. I hope you're ready. Let's do this. Let me figure out how to welcome our guest. Where is he? Where is he? There he is.
What up, Ryan?
What is up? All right. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the one, the only, Mr. Chris Applestad.
Season 2. Look at this. Exciting
What do you think?
stuff.
Are you ready for season 2?
I think any podcast where the host says, I was considering taking off my pants, is going to be a solid podcast for the rest of the time.
That might make the clip for season 3 opener.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there's over 2 million podcasters out there, and less than 20% get to season 2. So you're already doing great things in this world, Ryan. So congratulations.
Yeah, that's awesome. That makes me feel good. Thank you for that.
Absolutely. It's awesome to be here. I appreciate you having me on, man.
Honestly, I was like, okay, who am I going to have on the premiere of season 2? And I honestly can't think of anyone better. So I was grateful. The first time I reached out, you were a little hesitant. You're like, I don't know. Like, you've had some all-stars on there. And I'm like, dude, what's your confidence? What's the problem? This time you're like, yeah, I'll be there. I'm like, well, do you need to know what time or what day? You're like, I'll be there.
I was ready a week in advance. Actually, I was all set up last Tuesday in my office here, and it was not till today. So I had a week to really think about the topics.
I forgot about that. That does make me feel bad, because we were down in southern Utah. We were in Moab with the kids, and I see a missed call or text or something. I like, this seems more urgent than just like checking in, like, hey, what's going on? And I find out Chris is like, hey, man, what is the show about to start? Like, I'm ready to go.
At least you know I was prepared. This is also my first ever podcast in my 40s. I just turned 40 years old, so a very special and memorable moment for me too.
Nice, man. Well, congratulations. I'm glad I could be part of your first podcast in your 40s.
Yeah.
And so I haven't done much research. Is it really 20% make it to the second season?
I made that up. I'm not sure.
Oh, dude, you were making me feel good about myself.
I did know there's 2 million podcasters, and I know a lot of them don't have any listeners. So you really have done something cool and built something. I know a lot of guys that listen to it, and guys and gals, people in the lighting industry. But I haven't missed one. So I've listened to every single one so far and always enjoy them. There's some I bookmark and go back and listen to more than once. And I listen to less and less Howard Stern these days, and try to listen to stuff that makes me a better dad and a better business person. And you're top of the list there, Ryan. So thank you.
Dude, that's awesome, man. I really do appreciate that. Even though you lied about the stats, I appreciate the nice comment.
I mean, it's got to be true.
It has to be.
Yeah.
Every business fails except for yours. So whatever.
But there's a lot of podcasters that no one listens to. They just want to talk. So the fact that you have a podcast and people are coming and listening and engaging says a lot right there.
It really does. I mean, honestly, like if my numbers were going down and people were like, this sucks, I wouldn't do it. Like I guess I do like to talk, because I do talk a lot and I do annoy myself sometimes, but it is for the industry. It is for the people. It is to have guests like you on and share your experiences, because I know the 1.5 times you've been on the show, you inspired a lot of people. So I appreciate you, man.
Well, that's awesome. I know we'll talk about, what's changed in my business in the last year, but I also want to mention, Landscape Lighting Secrets is growing a lot. It's pretty cool. And you talk about people setting goals and growing their businesses, but you're also an example, because I see more and more people in the Facebook group and get to meet more and more people that have learned from you, and, guys with way more experience and knowledge than I have, that are still getting a lot and changing their businesses, 20 or 30 years into the game. So that's very, very cool.
Yeah. I actually wasn't going to bring it up. I try not to self-promote too much. I do enough of it on different platforms and stuff, but I think it's been cool because, I mean, I think you've noticed as we've gotten more people into the group, into the community, there's more sharing, there's more activity and stuff like that. Where when it was small, I think people were a little bit more reserved and stuff like that. Now there's more personalities and stuff like that. So it's been cool.
Well, you don't have to self-promote because I'll be your hype man. You stand in the background, you know. But whenever someone asks on the Facebook group or, you know, in person for advice or help, you know, there's a ton of guys that push them your direction. So I appreciate you and everything I've learned and a lot of the connections that I've made too, which is, you know, probably my favorite part of growing in the industry is meeting these guys that, you know, helped invent fixtures and techniques and strategies, and, you know, just learning from them directly is really, really awesome.
Yeah, it's been cool to see. I mean, inside the group and even outside the group, it seems like the landscape lighting industry is starting to evolve. You know, like people are starting to be more active in change and ideas and stuff like that. And like you said, you have access to other people who were more the pioneers of the industry and stuff like that. Where, and I don't know if it was just my perspective, but when I was running my business, I mean, I was not on Facebook. I was just doing my thing, you know. But it seems like we have a lot more options available to us.
Absolutely. Looks like our feed is frozen somewhere. Maybe just in Turks and Caicos.
Are you? Let's see. Oh yeah, I don't know. I mean, can you see and hear me? Okay.
I got you good, so keep rocking.
All right, good. Let me see if I could change. I don't know if I should change my internet or not. I don't know. I think I was on. Yeah, probably just turned off the show. Well, let's talk about your business a little bit. You know, we've had you on before, so we don't need like the full intro, but I know you got started more in the holiday lighting side. How long have you been in just strictly landscape lighting now?
So this is our third year of, you know, I dabbled on a couple projects, but this is year number 3 where we really decided to focus. The first year was just, hey, if I break even and keep this couple guys employed, you know, really one guy, if I can pay his salary for the spring and summer, then it'll be worth it because I'll have him in the winter. And that's when we'll really clean up and crush it with holiday lights. And we learned a lot, and I got involved in your program and set some goals. And, you know, we've been really growing ever since. It's been a fun and exciting journey so far. And, you know, we do holiday, landscape, architectural, and event lighting. And landscape has become my favorite piece of the pie for sure. You know, I love holiday lighting. I've been doing it a long time, and we do some really fun projects. But I love the artistry, the design aspects of landscape lighting, and really making a difference in people's homes, you know, where they appreciate it every day of the year as opposed to just during the holiday season. So man, it's been fun.
Yeah, it's such a cool industry. And like people ask me about it. I'm like, obviously I have a biased opinion, but it really never gets old. Like you could go out and look at any of your lighting projects tonight and still be like, man, that just looks awesome. You know, it's just one of those unique industries that's obviously financial rewarding, but just rewarding, like self rewarding as well.
I'm just so mad that I didn't, you know, do it 10 years ago, because I thought about it. I considered trying landscape lighting a long time ago and ended up not doing it and put it off. And, you know, part of who I am now. So it gives me cool opportunities to keep getting better and learning. But if I could go back and talk to my younger self, I would have said, let's get on this a lot earlier, and I would have dominated Central Ohio a lot quicker.
Yeah, I gotcha. Well, kind of along those lines, what's been like the scariest thing about owning your own lighting business? Is there anything that you're just like, man, this is a little more overwhelming than I thought? Or, you know, I was talking about taking risks and stuff like that. Anything that you've maybe wish you would have done differently?
Yeah, part of the risks for me have been on the expense side, you know, because you can't grow without making that investment. So I had never had a salaried employee before. We did seasonal, you know, I had some guys that would come hang Christmas lights with me, and we'd get 10, 12 guys. But then after the teardown, I wouldn't need them again until next holiday season. And so, moving right when we met, I had just got into my first warehouse, my shop, because I had been working out of storage units before. And I still see a lot of guys in the holiday world that work out of storage units. And that's another thing. I was like, I can't believe I didn't do this earlier. And I also wouldn't have been able to, I don't know how I could have done it without having a shop, So we have 4,000 square feet, warehouse space, having an office, just made my life so much better, having everything in one place, not getting packages delivered to my garage. That's better for my marriage. And so but that's risk. I'm spending a monthly amount, no matter what, no matter how much work we sell or not, you gotta pay that expense. And then also having guys on salary. It's like, hey, this guy has to have work to do, he's getting paid no matter what. And that's another risk too. So as you grow, you take on more responsibility and more expenses. And to me, that's the biggest risk. I don't know that I was scared about any part, but it is when you sit down and you look at your report of, what's your monthly nut that you have to meet. It gets more intimidating the bigger it gets.
Yeah, big time. Well, I mean, it's a good point. I mean, I think it's the first step to growing into an actual business. I started in the same thing, storage unit, met our guys at a trailer it wasn't even a storage unit. It was our trailer in a covered spot in a storage facility. And it was like, man, if I get someone to answer the phones, where are they going to be at? I'd have to get a shop, and like, how much is that going to cost? And that is scary to think, like, well, I got to pay my mortgage and got to take care of myself and my kids too. How has it impacted your business making that leap? Because most would be like, wait, that's not the right thing. I'm going to add to my expenses, but it's really not an expense. It's an investment. How has that turned into an investment for you?
Well, one thing you preach is the difference between being a business owner and having a job where you don't have a boss, and I look back on my previous career, even 3 years ago, and say, man, I didn't really have a business. And I ran my business for, 12, 13 years, but we've matured so much since then, in a lot of ways. And it makes me so excited. But then I look back and go, what was I doing there? And then with that same perspective, I look forward and say, I'm going to think the same thing in 2 years, but I want to do those things that I'd be doing in 2 years earlier and try to figure it out now. I'm not sure if I'm answering your question or not, but it's
good.
Yeah. I have matured a lot. My company has matured a lot in the past 3 years in a lot of ways. And I'm very, very excited about it. And want to keep pushing down the right path. Just yesterday was the first day for my office manager. And, that's a role that I told you was a goal of mine over a year ago to have before the holiday season. So I didn't meet my goal. She started yesterday, so it's awesome. And I'm just very, very, very excited. And I had an Indeed post out there and had a bunch of applicants and didn't know what I was doing. I was trying to talk to some other people about helping the hiring process, and ended up hiring the wife of a guy that does my landscaping. And the guy is awesome. He speaks 5 languages. He's one of the hardest working guys I've ever met. And he just mentioned to me that his wife, just lost her job, kind of COVID related. She's got 2 degrees. She's been an office manager for 15 years. She's way more qualified. I was like, I probably can't afford you. I would love for you to come work with me. And she's like, I just want to be somewhere where, I contribute to something meaningful and or help a business be successful. And I'm stoked because I was trying to decide, do I want to hire, go find someone who has a good attitude, who's a server at a restaurant and offer them a job, and kind of teach them, or do I want to try to find someone who is going to teach me and I'm going to learn from? And, I ended up with the latter. And so she showed up again today, which is, that's a success. That's a positive thing. I didn't scare her away. And so, yeah, we're figuring out, what she can do and how she can help us grow. But I'm just so relieved because I suck at some of that stuff, man. Some of the paperwork stuff. Like I talk about failures. I had a really nice holiday job. It was, I think, a $7,000 job. And I went and did the quote, closed the deal. They were super happy. And that's my favorite part of business is the sales side, and the design side more and more. But I said, okay, I'll get you the paperwork. No problem. And then more stuff happens, gets in the way. I never sent her the contract, never got the deposit. And to me, it was like, well, it was a lower priority because she already said, yes, the deal's already closed. Like, who cares? And finally she wrote me back and said, hey, I never heard from you again. And we're going to go with someone else, you know?
Wow.
And like the deal was done. And I was so pissed at myself. Like I threw away $7,000 when like I could have stayed up for 10 extra minutes one night and taken care of that. Like could have taken care of that right that second. And I didn't, you know, and I have the ability to do it, but it drains my battery. Like it's not my natural thing is doing that paperwork and getting those details processed. And you know, you can ask my wife. I'm not a good detail guy. And so having someone that's going to help with that workflow of prospect, quote, client, follow up, reviews, all the steps that, you know, make things go smoothly. You know, I can't wait, or I'm very excited to move forward.
That's awesome. Well, I'm glad you shared that experience, because that's just one experience that you remember that you tied a monetary value to it. But I guarantee there's others that happened, little cracks that happen, or forget to call someone back, whatever, that an office manager, they are worth whatever you decide to pay them. Like they're worth every penny, because they will prevent those things from happening. They'll keep you organized. They'll keep you professional. Even your existing clients, they can help retain them, you know? So there's so many benefits to having that. Most of us don't know that, you know, if you've never really had it, you're like, I can't afford it. But really you can't afford not to have an office manager. And you're about to see that as of yesterday.
Well, the number one thing on her job description was answer the phone. You know, if you just answer the phone every time it rings, like that pays for your salary. You know, I had a guy call, he's a former NHL player in town, and he called, and I answered the phone, and I said, how'd you, I always ask how they heard about us. And he said, well, I just Googled, and you're the third company I called, but you're the first one that answered the phone. So as soon as the voicemail answered, I just hung up and dialed the next one, and how many times have I lost opportunities because of that? And when you get a phone call and you get a $60,000 lighting job and you close it, I'm like, man, how many $60,000 jobs have I missed because I didn't answer the phone? It can be so frustrating, and like that takes care of the salary for most of the year. If you have one of those that you don't miss just because every time a person answers the phone and is friendly and like gets that appointment set, so.
Well said. Did you used to think when you were like on your own, because you ran your business for several years, just like you said, like you and some temps and stuff like that. And maybe this is just me, but I used to think like this. I'm interested to see if you thought the same way, that when you started your own business, like part of your worth was like how hard you worked, how many hours you put in, and how much hustling you were doing. Is that just me that thought that's what the definition of an entrepreneur was?
I've heard you talk about that before, and I don't know that I 100% relate. I don't think that I ever worked for the sake of like getting those hours, but especially during some holiday seasons, like there's been some rough years where, and anyone in the Christmas light business knows, especially earlier on, like it's 17, 18-hour days of like hard labor. Oh, and by the way, I'm not in Florida like a bunch of you guys, in t-shirts and cutoffs hanging Christmas lights on palm trees. Like,
we're about to lose Florida listeners. We're about to lose some Florida.
I thought you were going to do the siren, Ryan. You're supposed to drop that. There we go. We're in freezing rain and snow and ice, and it sucks, And so I would feel good after those days, but as my family grew and matured, then that time versus the time I could be spending with them, like it starts to have the opportunity cost, not from a money side, but from that family side, which just, when your kid's like crying and says you're never here, like that sucks, man. That's a kick right in the old balls.
Right. Well, and the only reason I bring that up is because I didn't feel like I had to commit a certain number of hours, but that's just what it took, because I didn't have help around me. And I justified it by going, you know what? That's fine. That's just the life of the entrepreneur. This is how you become successful. You just grind. And now I look back, I'm like, gosh, I grinded for, I mean, maybe at first that's okay, but at some point you got to wake up and realize, no, you can build a team and actually provide a better service to your clients. So I want to talk about your progress kind of over maybe the last year. Because you mentioned you hired an office manager. What did your company look like, 12, 18 months ago, and what does it look like now?
So I would say in year 2, I had one full-time guy that is my director of operations, and I had an hourly guy, and I made that hourly guy, so I don't want to lose this guy because he's a great, hardworking dude that, I want him to grow with us. So we added in another full-time employee there. I've got 2 more full-time employees that we added in this year. Technically our nanny's a Light Up Columbus employee, and so now, and then I added the office manager. So we're up to 6 full-time plus myself, coming from 1 full-time plus myself, which is a big deal. And, growth in the revenue side, I had a goal to try to, I wanted 50-50 with landscape lighting and holiday lighting in year 2. And I got to that, but I thought it was going to be there. And then my holiday lighting increased by 60%, so we will definitely eclipse it this year. And I've got a couple projects that I'm working on that, are kind of once in a lifetime opportunities where we'll do one project and potentially, eclipse our revenue from all of last year with one landscape lighting job, and once that's a done deal, I'll brag about it and be super excited, but I'm keeping it a little quiet right now. But some of the biggest things is just the systems and the processes that we've managed to change and implement, and having the warehouse is awesome for the organization, for the tools. I went from a 4x6 trailer that I had that I would pull in my truck to we have 2 vans right now. Still not wrapped, Ryan.
That's a mistake.
Yeah, I know.
Let's drill down there.
I'm shameful,
You're not
but
perfect.
It's true. But I have 2 vans, and the second one is older and crappier than the first one, but it costs more because the van market suddenly skyrocketed. It's impossible to get good vehicles right now. But so that's exciting. And yeah, man, we are jamming. I've learned a lot from the marketing aspect, from different guys in your program and other, mentors around the country. And I'm almost got the finishing touches on my mailer, my, 8-page, super nice mailer that I can't wait to send out, and people are going to want to copy it because it looks really, really good. So we're growing in the right directions and where I want to be. I live in Central Ohio, and specifically an area. I grew up in this town of Dublin, and I tell everyone that if someone else puts up lights anywhere in Dublin, it's an insult to me and my family. We own this area, and if I didn't work anywhere else, there's plenty of work here. We work all over Ohio. But I got my flag planted in the ground, and I say, bring it on to anyone else, because I went to high school with your kid, and my kids are here in school, and I'm a Dublin guy, so it's fun stuff, man, and I'm excited to see what's next.
That's awesome. Let's transition for a minute. We went and hung out at AOLP, and we could see the certificate back there. So we got
I didn't
down.
notice that. Huh.
Oh, what is that? Tell us what that is.
It says, that's right, certified low voltage lighting technician. Bam.
Nice. So we went down. What was it, a day or 2 early? It was just like a day early, I guess, before the conference. And we'd been studying, and we're like, hey, we're going to be CLVLTs. And when we were sitting down, I remember this. I'll always remember this, and I know you will. We were sitting down to take the test. There was like a quick Q&A right before, and it was 5 minutes before, and you got a text. Tell us about the text you got right before.
I mean,
got that
literally,
certificate.
I opened it and I read the first question, and I got a text, and it was from my bride, Becca, and she said, "Got to call me. Say you have to pee or something, but call me right now." I was like, "Oh," because I'm worried someone's hurt, or I've got a 8-year-old and a 6-year-old, and so I excused myself. And we focused for several days, and really, I want to do well on this exam and pass it. And so I'm in my test taking mode at that moment. I get this text, and now I'm a little shaken, and I go outside. And back in December, we had started the paperwork to try to adopt a baby. I was adopted, and it's a big part of my life. And, we always talked about it. We made our first 2 kids, and then we said, all right, we're ready to adopt a baby. And it can take years. It's a hard process. There's 100 people trying to adopt for every baby that is put up for adoption. So a lot of people, aren't successful. And that day that we sat down to take the test, our profile went live on this website. And so, we just became available to choose. And it's basically a menu of people looking to adopt, and these birth moms scroll through. And if you're new, you're at the bottom of the list, and that day, 5 minutes after our profile went live, a couple called and said that they want to meet with us, and it was a record fast time for that agency. And they work with people all over the country. And it happened to be a high school couple who lives 10 minutes down the street from us. It was just absolutely insane. And so, like, I find out that I potentially am going to be a dad seconds before taking my my exam. It was a crazy time. It's something that I'll definitely never forget.
Yeah, congratulations, man. And now it's been a short time, and you already got the baby at home and everything.
Yeah, that's even crazier, was that they go, "Oh, by the way, the baby's due in 2 weeks." I'm like, "What?" And so 2 days after he was born, we went to the hospital and took home baby Henry. So today he turned a month old. But he's, been in our family, and my kids love him, and it's a great baby, super, super cool. But I mean, the speed at which it happened is insane. It's not the kind of stuff that normally happens. And we're just super, super blessed and excited. And we were hoping for a boy. We were hoping for someone whose parents were close by. Like, everything, just the stars aligned, and something worked out right from a life of, trying to do the right thing as much as I could. And yeah, I can't say how happy we are, but it is pretty cool. And, the rest of my life, I will know that my CLVLT exam, is inextricably linked to my 3rd child, Henry. And by the way, I did pass. I was trying to compete with Ryan. I'm not sure 100%. I think I might have got one wrong more than he did, but we both did pass.
Well, it's interesting because we are competitive, and they don't grade it. Like, they don't give you like a 98 or whatever. It's like pass. But I think both you and I, we would have rather know, like, tell me exactly the percentage I got on this. Because if I got lower than someone, I'd rather get higher.
Yeah. And, for the record, that was my first ever AOLP conference, and I thought it was awesome. Like, I had a really great experience. I learned a ton. I met some great people. I'm glad I did the exam. I had thought about trying to do cold and CLVLT at the same time, but I'm glad. I think I focused on one because I want to come back and do the designer certification too. But it's something that I'm putting on my schedule. I'm going to try to go to attend every year because I got so much out of any one day that made it worth the time and effort to get there. And I enjoyed spending time with you and other guys in the program. Get to know them better too. It was very cool.
What did you like most about it? I mean, obviously the CLVLT was a good experience. You found out you were going to be a dad again, and then you have the CLVLT. But was there anything else that stuck out to you that you really liked about the AOLP conference?
I mean, the first thing that comes to mind, I think the highest value for me is the networking. And I'm a social person. I love to be around others. But there's just so much knowledge, and there's a lot of industries where, people are kind of assholes, and they look at business as this competition where if someone else is successful, then they're not, and I always practice a philosophy of abundance, and I tell each of my clients that too. I'm like, hey, if someone else does a better job and a better design, you like them better, and you choose them, that's fine. I think that's not going to happen, but if it does, that's okay, because there's enough work for everyone out there. But this industry has a lot of very friendly people who have had so much experience and knowledge, and they're so open to share that. And yeah, I could fly around the country, like visiting those people one at a time and hanging out with them. But to have so much knowledge in one place where, I can sit and have lunch with a guy who's been doing what I love to do for 30 plus years, that's awesome. And to have so many of those people in one place and so willing and open to be helpful, James and Nels and Chris Mitchell, among others, like, are three guys that I've learned a ton from, and I can point to specific jobs that, like, man, I wouldn't have sold that job had I not picked up that little tip, how Chris said to approach this, or how James said he did it when he was younger. Like, I love it. And so to me, that's the biggest value for the AOLP, right? And if you take that away, I still thought the speakers were entertaining and knowledgeable. Anyone who was there, they had this super lighting geek. Like, he's got to be the biggest geek in the world in lighting, right? And he walks around his life recording the color temperature of the area around him, and he was awesome. Like, I learned a bunch from him of stuff I didn't know before. And I drop a few of those little nuggets when I'm talking to a client who knows nothing. And like, man, this guy, Chris, is just like the smartest lighting guy and ever, so I thought it was great. What did you like the most about AOLP?
Yeah, mine was the same thing, was the networking. It was awesome. Even before, so when I got there the day early, I ran into some people as I was going to my room or whatever, and they're like, oh, we'll be over here. So we go over there and hang out. And same thing. It's like, you have a somewhat of a relationship with some of these people on Facebook, and you feel like you kind of know them just by like commenting back and forth, and like, whether you agree or disagree, whatever, you kind of get to know them. But yeah, just that in-person ability to build a relationship is super invaluable. So that was awesome. And I actually liked taking the CLVLT. I was pretty transparent. Like, that was my first time going to AOLP. I've been in the industry over 15 years, never gone to AOLP, never did the CLVLT. I'm going to do the cold certification as well. I guess next year, whenever they do it next. And I thought it was great. There was stuff that I definitely learned. It was good to force yourself to learn something that you maybe wouldn't naturally just do on your own, So I thought that was a great opportunity. And like you said, like, just learn different techniques from different people and see how the there's different ways to do the same thing. So yeah, it was awesome.
And I want to be, it makes me want to be more involved in the organization. And as time goes on, there's guys there that have been there forever, and the older guys get tired of being on the board and being a part of leadership, and younger people help and keep things growing and moving in the right direction. So I don't participate in stuff that I can't help, like, contribute to, I guess. So I'm excited. I'm part of the membership committee, and
cool.
I'm gonna keep on attending and keep learning and getting better.
Who do you think should take the CLVLT? Is it a new company? Is it like, how much preparation is needed, do you think? Like, who should be really considering taking it?
I thought about bringing one of my employees this time. But after talking and asking around, I was advised to go yourself, see what it's like, figure it out, and then know if it makes sense for your employee to go. And I now give that advice back to people who are considering it. So definitely worth learning yourself. I'm not generally going to ask my employees to do anything that I don't do or haven't done. I know at some point, that might change, but I'm never asking my guy to climb up on a roof that I wouldn't climb myself or didn't, And so but I do want to have bring one of my guys next time. I mean, I think, purely value of the CLVLT, like my certificate over there, doesn't by itself, really mean much. And I know some people put it on their cards and their vans, but the experience and the process and the learning, I think, is where it's, has the value to me. So I think if you're new, if it's your first time going to ALLP, it's worth doing. And, if you've had this very successful business, I don't need that, that's fine too. Don't take it, but I'm glad that I did. And I'll encourage my guys to also in the future.
Cool. Yeah, that's awesome. I want to talk, we talked about, you're a father again. You've got 3 kids, right?
I do.
So 3 kids. What's the oldest?
My son Bennett is 8. He'll be 9 here in July.
Okay. So you got 3 kids under 10, busy time of life, especially with the brand new baby.
Yep.
Let's talk about work-life balance, because you are, to me at least, and it's not like we're hanging out on the weekends and stuff. I'm in Utah, you're in Ohio, but from what I see, like, you're a tremendous example of someone who's been able to really effectively manage that schedule of being a dad, being a husband, and being a business owner, and succeeding at all 3. How do you do that?
Well, I would say sometimes I feel like I'm failing at all 3, first of all.
Right.
And thank you for that compliment. A lot of people learn about business from books and mentors and examples. I'm super lucky to have an incredible entrepreneur as my bride. So Becca owns, and I'm sure I said last time I was on, she owns a very successful advertising agency. They work with Fortune 100 companies. She's been on the Inc. 5000 list, 4 times for fastest growing companies in the country. And she just bought another business out of Tampa, increased her employees. She's got 36 employees,
Wow.
And she is amazing at delegating. She's built a really great leadership team. She's on 13 weeks maternity leave, and, her company is just cruising. They're doing great. And it's because she's very guarded with her time. And so she's a good example for me of how to be a dad and still succeed in business, because for a long time, if I want to do more, I just got to do more, and so I think between her influence and then, being part of your program and the guys that I've got to know, all these changes that this growth has helped me to have the time to spend more time with my family. And it's not just my family too, because I have, 1,000 hobbies. I'm very, very passionate about a bunch of stuff, and because I want to do those things too. And I feel like, man, I never got to kiteboard or hunt or fish or rock climb or play tennis, like all these things that I love. But my kids are getting old enough that they can do that stuff with me. And that's super cool. Is like all of my kids, whatever they're into, I'm into, right? I hate soccer. I think it's the stupidest sport. It's so boring. You score like one time, everyone's throwing their bodies on the ground, faking. Like, I'm a wrestler. I'm a wrestling coach. And I see that crap and I just I want to leave. But my kids play soccer and they love it. So, man, every, Saturday I sat from 9 to 11 in hail watching my kids play soccer because I love my kids, but I sure hope that they're going to pick one hobby that they're into that I like too. And my son now is into skiing, and it's a little different in Ohio than Utah. We've got like 900 vertical feet at my local hill, but every Sunday afternoon I take my son and we go skiing and he's having a blast. And I just get so excited about it. So, work is work, but family is still number one. And I just really enjoy getting to spend time with them and do things with them. And I want to be a better entrepreneur so I can have opportunities from a financial standpoint and from a time standpoint that I can, continue to grow and enrich. Because I know that, not too much longer, they're doing college visits, and then you can't ever get that stuff back.
So are you like intentional with your time on the weekends, the evenings? Like what is the trick there? Because for me, it was like, it was just so busy that even when I got home, all of a sudden I'd find myself responding to an email when it was like, I didn't need to. but I was like so addicted to work that I had a hard time shutting that off. Is that easy for you to shut off, or are you intentional with it, or how does that work?
I am intentional with it. I'm very productive after everyone's asleep, so when my wife's in bed and my kids are asleep, from that like 10 o'clock to 1 o'clock in the morning time frame, if I really need to get something done, I can focus and really crank it out better than any other time of the day at that time. But once I'm home, that like 6 to 9:30 time frame is like pretty fiercely guarded. So we all try to have dinner together every night. We talk about our days. My son is an awesome reader. He's really into Harry Potter, and we're reading the Harry Potter series together. So every night before bed, we, even if it's only 5 minutes, sometimes it's half an hour, but we sit there, and he can read himself. He could get through the whole thing pretty quick. But it's our time together, so we have these special moments. At our house, we have what we call special time, which means one kid, one parent, and you go do something, just the two of you. And we had a spring break trip planned, and all of a sudden we have a baby. And so my bride stays home and with the baby, and we talk to the kids and let them decide. So my daughter decided to stay home too. So I went to Punta Cana with my son for a week, just the boys. And, we had some other families that were there and his friends, but it was really, really cool. And I think that if you have multiple kids, it's important to do that one-on-one time. You'll find out stuff that a conversation you'd never have in front of his mom or in front of his sister, and vice versa. And so for my daughter, it's usually breakfast. Like we'll get up and go to breakfast before school. And I don't know if you guys have Bob Evans in Utah, but
Nope.
You're missing out there, Ryan.
Bob Evans.
Yeah, Bob Evans is a great breakfast spot. Yeah, IHOP's good too.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's just our time to hang out. And so I am intentional about that. I've always heard people talk about it goes so fast. You're not going to get these moments back, blah, blah, blah. But I'm very good at enjoying my time in the moment. That's one gift that I have, is that, I don't ever look back and go, I don't really enjoy that. Like I enjoy it. I have a fun time. I have great memories every second. And so I'm trying to keep that going the rest of my life.
That's awesome. Well, you make it sound and look easy because you really are good at it. So it's one of those things that I admire about you, and I strive for. Because even now, my schedule is not anywhere near as hectic as it used to be. But even now, I really am addicted to work, and I have these tendencies just always pulling at me. And I'm like, oh, what would Chris do? Okay, put my phone down over here.
Well, you're also, it's crazy the difference between the last time we talked. What's happened in your business is you were a coach before, but how many different cities have you been into and spoken in the last 6 months? And you're holding live events and you're giving talks. Like it's cool stuff. So you're growing and evolving. And for people that are in your program, we see that you're practicing what you preach too. Like you're continuing to push forward, because if you sit there and tell people to do things that you won't do, and eventually they'll stop listening to you,
Right.
and I compare everything in my life to wrestling, and Patrick Harder is from Sterling Lighting, is a big wrestler, and his son is, wrestling. I know there's other guys in the lighting industry. I've heard of some throwdowns at AOLP before. But
by the way, I thought we were going to see you wrestle somebody at AOLP. That was the real thing I wanted to ask you.
I don't really drink, so I usually only wrestle on wrestling mats. But I think in wrestling, you don't see a lot of successful teams that don't have a coach that can kick everyone's ass, and because when you see someone who you're trying to learn from, if they're out of shape and can't move, you're like, I can listen to this person, and so having a coach who's continuing to push forward and grow their business like you're doing makes us go, all right, he's not full of crap. I'm going to keep doing it too, and continue to try to succeed and do well.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, I'm glad you're seeing it. I've got a lot. I've got even more planned. So I'm trying to make Landscape Lighting Secrets even better. And it's a great program, but there's so many things that I've got planned for it that I can't wait for you and others to see.
Well, I intend to, be on that inaugural flight for the Landscape Lighting Secrets jet when we have our European summit. I've heard about all these things, so I'm ready.
I know you'll be there, so I'm not doubting that at all. All right, well, it's pretty much time to wrap up. What do you want to leave our audience with? Any advice on what to do or what not to do? Sometimes that's my best advice, is like, here's a bunch of stuff I screwed up on. Don't do this. But sometimes we have really good things we've done. But anything you want to leave our audience with?
Well, I guess I need to confess, because the last time I was on, I talked about accomplishing a huge goal and setting a new goal, and said, next time we talk, you got to check in. And I haven't accomplished that goal yet. So I'm going to light these towers at Ohio State's campus, and you'll see it. Everyone will see it on ESPN during the Ohio State night football games. It's still in the works, but I haven't closed that deal yet. But I'm letting you know, I'm still working on that goal.
Okay, so in order to help kind of hold you accountable, what are you doing right now? Like, what are you going to do this month to work on that project, getting the project? This
month, I am going to put together the proposal or the design and have it on a piece of paper, because so far it's in my head. I know exactly what it's going to be like, but I haven't done much, right? So I need to put the design down, put a price tag on it, and then go find someone who's rich and wants to make it happen.
Okay, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So we'll check back in with you. And again, it's a kind of a good example. We talk about taking risks and failure, if you want to call it. I don't consider it a failure that it took you 4 months longer to hire your office manager than your goal was. I don't consider it a failure that you haven't done that yet. But if you give up on it, then maybe that's a little bit of a failure. But these things are never perfect. Like, we can set a goal that we want to get to $1 million, or we want to get this deal, or we want to hire someone, but it just doesn't always work out the exact same way. The key is to seriously keep moving forward. I mean, even I get sick of hearing myself say that, but that is the key. And I know you'll do it. So we'll check back in with you later on that. And we'll check back on this big project that you're working on too. So
cool. And then, so my advice is still, don't be afraid to go after something really big. I watched some of these guys giving talks at AOLP with, $6-7 million businesses. And I see Greg, lighting $100 million homes. And I'm like, man, I haven't done anything that big yet, but I want to. And sure enough, I got an opportunity right now where, I can't wait to show it off and hopefully win awards at AOLP next year from this project that we do. So go do something big that you feel like you couldn't do before, because you can now. And I can't wait, man. I'm excited.
I love it, man. Well, I can't thank you enough for being here on the premiere of season 2. Thank you for season 2 all the day. I really appreciate our relationship, our friendship. Congrats on the CLVLT. Congrats on baby Henry. Congrats on everything you're doing, man. It's awesome to be here on the sidelines going, holy cow, this guy is taking this serious. Like, he is putting in the work, and he's making something of himself. He's progressing every day, and it's awesome to see. It's contagious. I feed off of it. I know others do. So thank you so much, man.
Thank you, Ryan. I appreciate the opportunity to be here and everything I've learned. And let's go. Let's keep going, man.
All right. Well, thanks so much. And thank you guys for being a part of episode 1 of season 2. And it's going to be an awesome season. We got a lot of cool guests lined up. See you guys next week.
Can't wait. Later.
See you, man.